Very good evening, friends. Meeting again in the session of Robert's philosophy, and we are discussing the most important chapter from H.A.Robert, the phenomenological point of view. This phenomenological point of view is nothing but the explanation of the homeopathic concepts, the dynamic concepts in relation with the modern science. And here, Robert has tried his level best to explain the things in a recent terminologies. And that's very important because the people never accept the things if you don't talk in their language. And that's why he is taking the help of physics, the chemistry, the biology, the basic sciences, and he is trying to correlate everything over there. So this aspect, when he discussed, then he explained about the homeopathic potencies and their scientificity. While explaining this, most important thing he has explained that basically in homeopathy, when we deal with the patient and when we give medicines in 30 potency, 200 potency, 1M potency, many people claims that this is a placebo effect. In order to explain to the world that this is not a placebo, what do we do is nothing but the scientific method with which the energy which is there inside the atom of that medicinal substance gets released because of the trituration or succussion method. Every atom has in the center the proton and neutrons, and the electrons are there at the periphery. Whole energy is saturated inside that, and unless we apply force from outside, the energy never gets released. Both the methods, that is the trituration in case of solid substances or a succussion in case of liquid substances, makes the things finer and finer. At the same time, applying the force externally, it divides the nucleus and releases the energy. And that's why homeopathic medicines are nothing but the energy medicines. And this concept he tried to explain over there by taking the help of Millikan's um, references from Millikan's books, as well as by taking the help of the um, basic science books. We were there on page number 265, the concluding part of this chapter we are doing now. And what he says in last paragraph, modern physics may give us the solution in the wandering neutron. The neutrons are evidently loosed when certain element of the low atomic weight are combined with an infinitesimal weight of the radiations of an element of the high atomic weight, and these neutrons in turn readily combine with the other elements with which they come in contact. And while these elements of the third state do not necessarily become changed, they become unstable and again subject to further changes. Millikan quotes the case of a bit of beryllium mixed with the infinitesimal amount of radium emanation, where one of the neutrons released enters the nucleus of an atom of the silver and thus raises the atomic weight of the silver 1 unit, and silver becomes extra heavy, still retaining its chemical properties but becoming unstable and proceeding to throw out a negative electron and transforming itself into a caladium. To be sure, these changes were the result of experimental procedures, but we cannot be assured that any combination of elements might not produce just as profound changes, either constructive or destructive. This would be particularly true when we consider methods we employ to release the inherent energy in seemingly inert substance. If our methods are sufficient to release energy, we cannot assure that they might not be transmuted. So what he is giving in the last lecture, in the concluding part, we have discussed that why Hahnemann said that one should not use two medicines at a time. And because the reason is that if you combine them, combinedly triturate or succus them, then the electrons might get transmuted from one substance to another, and there might be a formation of something different. The original drug substance becomes completely different and the properties becomes a different. If it happens, you cannot come to a right conclusion and right proving, and you cannot label it in a proper manner. This was the reason, and he has taken the help of Millikan's book again, and he explained over there this is what happens when we combine together two medicines at a time and triturate them or succus them at a time. So there is possibility of transmutation which can produce another element and which can cause a we don't know whether it causes constructive effect or whether it causes the destructive effect. We are unknown about the thing, and if we are unknown, then we cannot produce the desired results, and that's why it is better to be always with a single remedy at a time. A further problem in potentization presents itself to our inquiring minds. If our methods are sufficiently practical to release these energies, and we must admit that potential power of our higher potency often startle us with their reaction, we may well inquire to just what degree the atoms of the elements are broken up in these substances. Unquestionably, there is some definite ratio of energy released from the various elements, but to what extent trituration and succussion touches the atomic structure itself, we do not know. If we could know that our application of force to these substances actually broke up the atom, we would recognize as a corollary that destruction of the elemental atom and consequence release of proton and neutrons tends toward the actual formation of different elements and with different atomic structures, and that these in turn had their own rates of energy, which might be stabilized or unstabilized under certain conditions and combination. So again, one more point he has raised over there. This is the field where new homeopaths, new scientists can work upon. After doing trituration, after or succussion, we exactly don't know how much energy is released with how much force. If I prepare it with my force and another person who is weak enough is preparing the same medicine with his force, there might be a little bit difference in their production of energies because the force applied is rather different, and you cannot come to a very clear cut uh, indication that this much energy is released. Those things are difficult to find it out and very difficult to explain. If some new advances comes out and if something comes in future, we can, if we are able to measure, then we can produce a similar type of medicines. But because of such a thing, there might be a little bit variations in the energies of the medicines with which they are prepared. So he's putting the plus points as well as the minus points about the homeopathic medicine. This suggests further study of composite substances such as plant remedies. So here he explains there are medicines which are made in machines, yes, definitely, but few pharmacies never made medicines in machines. Few of them do it uh, mechanically, personally. This suggests further study of composite substances as the plant remedy. It has not yet been demonstrated that living substance contains radioactive elements. But when we consider the implication of such experiments as those cited by Millikan, we may question the reaction set up by breaking down elements of various atomic weights, even to the lower resistance and their interaction. Further, the reaction of the changing energies upon the molecular construction of the individual is something upon which we may ponder. Seemingly, these problems are beyond the scope of physician. We feel impelled to know some of our materia medica and few simple principles for the administration of our remedy. In other words, we naturally take a near-sighted view of our work. If we take wider view, the phenomenological view, we see that these problems demands a more thorough understanding of our work. They express only a proper appreciation of our science and art. So he is explaining over there that such a things requires a further study. Radioactive substances we have learned in physics, as well as the Millikan health also mentioned over there, they loses their own energy. And when they releases their energy by throwing away the rays, it itself gets changed after a long time. But those from those substances also we prepare a medicine and we liberate their energy by triturating or by succussing those elements which have less atomic weight. We still releases the energy, but one cannot exactly predict how much energy is released. Only thing is that the radioactive substances, even in low potencies, can work very fast. So X-ray medicine, we don't have to go for higher dilutions or higher potencies because it itself is a radiation. So we have to understand all those things from scientific point of view so that we can use them properly. But still, it requires a further big study. Even the United States Department of the Public Health is recognizing the fact that where selenium is found near the surface, which occurs in only a few places in this country, the impaired health of the community makes continued habitation impractical and dangerous. Selenium ranks 34 in the scale of atomic weights between the arsenic and bromine and falls considerably below the radioactive elements that have long been known to be dangerous neighbors. So there is one study that selenium, whose atomic weight is not so much, it is 34 only, but still, if it were it found in an ample amount in certain areas, the people's health has been disturbed because of that. It is injurious to the health. The series of aeroplane accidents on our Pacific coast in the 1936 and 37 has been attributed to the influence of uranium fields, where the deposits approach the surface in certain places in California. Uranium is one of our very heaviest element, number 92 in the scale. It is highly radioactive and it is believed that these radiation disturb the delicate instrument. So they were useless, hence the tragedies that occur. So such types of effects have because of uranium happened earlier also. So there are many accidents happen in the sea, in the aeroplane at certain specific place. And then it was found that uranium was there in a big quantity in that place, and because of the radiation of that uranium itself, the delicate instrument got the problem, they suffered, and they're found to be an accident. So scientific reasons were found it out later because of understanding of those elements which releases their energy without doing anything. And so uranium, whose atomic weight is 92, itself releases the energy and can produce the damage. Consider patient with heart condition who cannot endure high altitude. We recognize this important modality and look for profound reason behind it. We are told that cosmic rays are 5.5 times a destructive at an altitude of 14,000 feet as at sea level. Cosmic rays are essentially destructive to all the elements, especially the radioactive, subjecting a patient hampered through his circulatory system, his vital balance already impaired, to forces known to be destructive might easily be fatal. It may be significant that the heart condition often fall into the class of those conditions we recognize as being syphilitic or psychotic in origin, using syphilitic or psychotic in sense of either acquired disease or inherited dyscrasia. The remedies applicable in these conditions, as we have pointed out previously, are remedies that in majority are rated in the radioactive group. So he is explaining one more example that why some people who are having heart conditions, pathological conditions, it has been said or asked them that they should not go for higher altitudes, they can suffer. And this was done later in order to find it out what may be the reason. The reason is always that when you go to the higher altitude, the cosmic rays, which contains a lot of things in them, can affect the health of that person and can be fatal. It damages the person because already they are either from psychotic miasm or syphilitic miasm where structural changes are already there and they cannot succumb, they cannot fight with those cosmic rays and they succumb to the situation. So these are the things. So it means that energy is there and this energy is either destructive or either constructive. In the similar manner, homeopathic medicines also have a lot of energy inside it. And this energy itself works as the energy to treat the patient. So homeopathic medicines are not placebo medicines. It contains a lot of energy and that works over there. To conclude chapter, what he says, on the other hand, the patient who suffers from atmospheric pressure and dampness of the sea level flourishes at higher altitudes. We have previously discussed the problem with psychosis as a probable overstimulation of the growth sorry, and development of certain body cells. If this individual is exposed to increased bombardment of cosmic rays, this tends to balance the disease state and patient enjoys a more stable equilibrium. Here, in the field of atom, lies the final answer to our questions of sickness and health. The problems of conception, growth, vital balance, decay. Here lies the answer to our problem of cure, maintenance of normal development, retention of vital balance, insurance against premature decay. This is challenge to the scientist as with an understanding of homeopathic principles and their application, or to the homeopathic scientist who comprehend the phenomenon of the structure of the universe, not in a study of individual sick cells, but of the universe and universal law reflected in the universal structure of such each elemental atom, we shall we find our clarified. So he is giving all those examples over there. He has explained that the persons who are psychotic enough, if who suffers at the sea level, who used to suffer at near the sea, who are generally having hydrogenide constitution, may feel better at the higher altitude where there is not so much of dampness. They always feel better and enjoys it. The external energies also affect the human tendencies and human nature, and it depends upon the adaptability of the human being to the external sources. So ultimately, when we study further related with our potencies and their scientific explanation, then we can confidently tell the others, yes, homeopathic remedies are not the placebos, they carry a strong energy inside it. Only thing is that it is necessary to show to the world with some instrumentation or precise instrumentation, then people can adapt. So phenomenological point of view means some there are two ways. First is manifestation. Phenomenon means manifestation, which we have to take into consideration. At the same time, you have to explain the reasoning behind that. And this is reasoning why homeopathic medicines are not placebo and they are the energy medicines. The whole study revolves around the energy learned from physics, learned from chemistry, and how it works with the homeopathic saturated medicines or homeopathically succursed medicines. So, method of potentization is nothing but the release of energy from the medicinal substance, release of energy from the atom of the medicinal substance, and that is nothing but looking towards the thing with phenomenological point of view. So we have completed very important chapter from this H.A.Robert. Only last chapter of this Robert in the fourth year syllabus is still remaining. That will conclude, and after concluding this, we're going to learn something new. So with tomorrow, if there will be no sound, then we'll continue with lecture. If there is sound, we have to stop the lecture. It depends. I will let you know. So that's all for today. Thank you being there, and we'll meet tomorrow.
Thank you
Good.
very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Have a good evening.
Thank you.